The galaxy had seen wars before. Planets had burned. Empires had fallen. Entire species had disappeared into history. But nothing had ever shocked the galaxy like the day the Vorlax Dominion announced the live execution. Every communication screen across known space suddenly changed to the same signal. Trade ships stopped moving. Military fleets paused their battles. Even pirate stations went silent. Everyone watched. Because the Vorlax Emperor himself appeared on the screen. He sat on a giant black throne inside the Dominion Palace. His silver armor reflected the red lights around him. Behind him stood hundreds of armed guards. His cold yellow eyes looked directly into the camera. Then he smiled. "Citizens of the galaxy," he said calmly, "today you will witness the end of human pride." The screen changed. A dead gray moon appeared. And standing across the surface of that moon were millions of humans. Men. Women. Children. 10 million people. Some were crying. Some were injured. Some held family members tightly as armed Vorlax soldiers surrounded them. The humans had been taken from frontier colonies after the Dominion captured their systems weeks earlier. Now the entire galaxy understood why. This was not punishment. This was entertainment. Inside bars and homes across alien worlds, people stared silently at the broadcast. Some species looked uncomfortable. Others watched with excitement. The Vorlax Dominion was one of the strongest empires in the galaxy. Few dared question them. And humans? Humans were still considered new. Weak. Too emotional. Too stubborn. Many races believed humanity would finally surrender after this. Far away on Earth, billions of humans watched the same live broadcast. The streets of New York became silent. Crowded cities across Asia stopped moving. Inside military command centers, human officers stood frozen in horror. No one spoke. Because among those 10 million civilians were families of soldiers, scientists, workers, and children from every human colony. A young human girl appeared on the screen. She could not have been older than 7. She held her little brother's hand tightly while trying not to cry. Behind her stood a Vorlax soldier with a plasma rifle. The camera focused on her face. The Emperor smiled again. "Humanity refused peace," he said. "So humanity will learn obedience." Inside Earth's main defense headquarters, Admiral Elias Ward stared at the screen without blinking. His fists shook. Around him, other officers waited for orders. Some wanted immediate retaliation. Others demanded rescue operations. But there was no time. The moon was surrounded by Dominion warships. Thousands of them. Any human fleet sent there would be destroyed before reaching the surface. The Emperor stood from his throne slowly. "You humans always believed you were special," he said. "You fought every empire that tried to control you. You called yourselves fearless." He leaned closer to the camera. "But today, the galaxy will watch humanity break." Across Earth, people screamed at their screens helplessly. Parents covered their children's eyes. Human soldiers punched walls in anger. But nothing could stop what was coming. Then something strange happened. One of the captured humans stepped forward. A man wearing a torn mining uniform. Blood covered one side of his face. A Vorlax guard hit him immediately, but the man still looked directly at the camera. And he smiled. Not with fear. With pride. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. The human laughed weakly. "You have no idea what you just did." A soldier shot him in the chest. He fell beside the others. But his final words spread across every world in the galaxy. For the first time, some alien races felt nervous. Because the human had not sounded defeated. He sounded certain. The Emperor raised one hand. Above the moon, massive weapons activated beneath the Dominion warships. Bright red lights filled space. The countdown began. 10. Across Earth, millions begged for help. 9. Human fleets rushed toward jump points even though they knew they would arrive too late. 8. The little girl hugged her brother tightly. 7. Inside the human command center, Admiral Ward closed his eyes for 1 second. 6. A young officer whispered, "Sir, what do we do?" 5. Ward opened his eyes again. And something inside him had changed. 4. His voice became cold. "Record everything," he said. 3. The officers looked at him in confusion. 2. Ward stared at the screen silently. 1. The moon disappeared in white light. The explosion covered half the screen. For several seconds, nobody across the galaxy moved. Then the signal returned. The moon was gone. Nothing remained. 10 million humans had vanished in fire. The Vorlax Emperor smiled proudly while crowds on several alien worlds celebrated. Some cheered. Some laughed. Some called it justice. But on Earth, there was only silence. No riots. No speeches. No crying reporters. Just silence. A terrible silence. Admiral Ward slowly turned away from the screen. One officer asked quietly, "Sir, what are your orders?" Ward looked toward the giant star map covering the wall. Thousands of human ships blinked across the galaxy. Then, one by one, they began disappearing from public networks. Civilian transports vanished. Military fleets vanished. Research stations went dark. The officer looked confused. "Sir." Ward's face showed no emotion now. "The Dominion believes humanity is broken," he said softly. Another officer nodded carefully. "Yes, sir." Ward stared at the burning image of the destroyed moon. "No," he whispered. "They just signed their extinction." Far away, inside the Dominion Palace, the Emperor celebrated his victory. He believed fear would finally force humanity to surrender. But deep beneath Earth's surface, inside hidden military vaults forgotten by the galaxy, ancient doors slowly began opening. And for the first time in over 20 years, humanity activated the Ragnarok Protocol. 3 days passed after the live execution. The galaxy expected humanity to beg for peace. Instead, humanity disappeared. At first, nobody noticed the change. A few human trade ships failed to arrive at alien ports. Several cargo stations stopped answering messages. Then entire human communication networks suddenly went silent. One by one, human systems vanished from galactic maps. The galaxy became nervous. Inside the Senate of the Core Worlds, alien leaders argued loudly. What are the humans doing? Are they preparing surrender terms? Are they planning revenge? Nobody knew. Even the powerful Vorlax Dominion could not track human fleets anymore. It was as if humanity had stepped into darkness. Far away on Earth, deep under the Himalayan mountains, the main human war command center remained active 24 hours a day. Massive holographic screens filled the underground room. Admiral Elias Ward stood silently beside the central table. His officers waited nervously. No one had slept properly since the execution. The faces of the 10 million dead humans still appeared on every screen inside the command center. Ward looked older now. Colder. A young commander finally spoke. "Sir, the outer colonies are asking for orders." Ward did not answer immediately. Instead, he watched hundreds of blinking red lights spread across the star map. Those lights marked Vorlax military systems. After a long silence, he finally spoke. Phase 1 begins tonight. The officers exchanged nervous looks. One woman swallowed carefully. "Sir, once we start this." Ward interrupted her. "There is no stopping now." No one argued again. Because every person in that room had watched the moon explode. And every person wanted justice. Meanwhile, inside the Vorlax Imperial Palace, the Emperor celebrated. Music filled the giant halls. Alien nobles laughed proudly. Military commanders drank expensive wine while speaking about humanity's defeat. The Emperor sat on his throne with satisfaction. "You see," he said confidently. "Fear always wins." A general bowed his head. "The remaining human colonies are unusually quiet, my Emperor." The Emperor smiled. "They are mourning." Another officer looked uncertain. "Still, we cannot locate their main fleets." The Emperor waved one hand dismissively. "Cowards hide after losing." But not everyone inside the palace felt confident. General Kaler, one of the oldest Dominion commanders, remained silent. He had fought humans before. He remembered something dangerous about them. Humans became calm before violence. Very calm. That night, Kaler stood alone inside a military observation room, staring at the stars. A younger officer approached him. "General, do you really believe humanity surrendered?" Kaler answered slowly. "No." The officer looked confused. "Then why are they hiding?" Kaler's eyes narrowed. "Because predators disappear before they attack." The young officer laughed nervously. But Kaler did not laugh. Hours later, the first Dominion station vanished. Outpost Kappa 9 guarded an empty mining region near the outer systems. Nothing important existed there. The station carried over 2,000 Vorlax soldiers. At 2:14 Galactic time, all communication ended instantly. No distress signal. No warning. Nothing. A nearby patrol ship arrived 6 hours later. The station was gone. Not damaged. Gone. Only melted metal drifted through space. The patrol captain searched the wreckage carefully. Then his crew found something strange. Burned into one surviving wall were simple human words. 10 million. Fear spread through the ship immediately. The captain sent emergency reports to the Dominion High Command. At first, officials believed it was a small terrorist attack. Then another station disappeared. Then another. Within 2 days, 7 military facilities had been destroyed across Dominion space. Always silent. Always fast. Always leaving the same message behind. 10 million. Now panic began spreading through the empire. Inside the palace, the emperor slammed his fist against the throne. Find them. Military fleets rushed across nearby systems searching for hidden enemies. But they found nothing. No human ships. No signals. No survivors. Only death. General Kaler studied every attack carefully. The patterns terrified him. These are not random strikes, he warned. Humanity is testing our defenses. The emperor growled angrily. They are cowards attacking from shadows. Kaler looked directly at him. No, my emperor. The room became silent. Kaler continued carefully. They are hunting. The emperor's expression darkened. But before he could answer, alarms suddenly filled the palace command room. An officer ran toward the throne. Emergency report. The emperor stood immediately. What happened? The officer's hands shook. The fifth battle fleet has disappeared. Everyone froze. That fleet contained over 300 warships. Impossible to destroy quietly. The Emperor grabbed the officer violently. Where? And near the Vargo's rift. The room became silent again. Because the Vargo's rift was empty space. Nothing important existed there. The Emperor released the terrified officer slowly. Send reconnaissance ships immediately. Hours later, the scouts arrived at the Vargo's rift. Their cameras transmitted images back to the Dominion Palace. Burning wreckage floated across space. Hundreds of destroyed Vorlax warships drifted silently in the darkness. The fleet had been completely annihilated. Then the transmission suddenly shook. One scout officer looked forward in horror. Movement detected. Something enormous emerged from the darkness. A human warship. But it did not look like any human ship seen before. It was massive. Black armored plating covered its surface. Blue energy lines glowed across the hull like lightning. The ship moved silently through space like a giant predator. Then more shapes appeared behind it. Dozens. Hundreds. Thousands. An entire hidden human fleet emerged from the darkness. The scout crew stopped breathing. One officer whispered. How long were they building this? Back inside the Dominion Palace, fear finally entered the Emperor's eyes. Because the human ships did not send threats. They did not demand surrender. They sent only one short message across every military frequency in the galaxy. Admiral Ward himself appeared on the screen. His face showed no anger. That frightened everyone even more. He looked directly into the camera and spoke calmly. 10 million humans died screaming. Now humanity will answer. Then the transmission ended. And the hidden human fleet began moving toward Dominion space. The galaxy had never seen fear spread so fast. After the mysterious human fleet appeared inside the Vargo's rift, panic moved across every major system. News stations repeated the same images again and again. Thousands of black human warships emerging silently from deep space. No warnings. No diplomacy. No mercy. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Vorlax Dominion looked afraid. Inside the Imperial Palace, emergency alarms echoed through every hall. Military officers rushed between command rooms carrying reports of missing fleets and destroyed stations. The Emperor stood before a giant holographic map of the galaxy. Red warning symbols covered half of Dominion space. How many ships do the humans have? He demanded angrily. An officer answered carefully. We still do not know, my Emperor. The Emperor slammed both hands against the command table. How is that possible? Nobody answered. Because the truth terrified everyone. Humanity had secretly built an enormous war machine without the galaxy noticing. And now it was awake. Far away, inside Earth's underground war command center, Admiral Elias Ward watched the same star map calmly. Unlike the chaos inside the Dominion Palace, the human command center remained quiet. Cold. Focused. Thousands of military officers worked silently at their stations. Huge hidden factories beneath Mars, Titan, and the moons of Jupiter had activated fully. For 20 years, humanity had prepared for extinction. Now every weapon was ready. A commander walked toward Ward. Sir, Fleet Ragnarok has entered Dominion territory. Ward nodded once. Resistance? Minimal. Another officer spoke carefully. Sir, some alien governments are asking if humanity plans to stop after punishing the Dominion. Ward looked at the burning image of the destroyed moon still displayed on the main screen. No, he said quietly. The room became silent. Then Ward gave the order that changed the galaxy forever. Begin Phase 2. Across hidden human shipyards, thousands of warships accelerated toward Dominion space. Entire fleets emerged from secret jump gates buried beyond known star systems. Human ships no longer used old military designs. These vessels were built for one purpose only: war. The largest ships looked like moving fortresses. Dark metal armor covered their bodies. Blue energy shields glowed across their surfaces. Massive gravity cannons rotated slowly beneath them. Even experienced alien commanders could not understand the technology. Human engineers had spent decades preparing for this moment in secret. And now the galaxy was finally seeing the result. The first major attack came without warning. The Dominion military world of Carthos Prime was considered impossible to invade. Millions of soldiers protected the planet. Orbital defense stations surrounded the system. 3 battle fleets guarded the area permanently. The Vorlax believed no enemy could break through. Then human ships arrived. The attack began in complete silence. No speeches. No threats. Only darkness. Human stealth cruisers appeared first, disabling communication satellites before alarms could spread. Seconds later, giant warships emerged above the planet. The sky itself turned black. Dominion commanders screamed orders across military channels. Defense cannons fired immediately. Thousands of plasma weapons lit the darkness. But human shields absorbed the attacks easily. Then humanity answered. Gravity cannons fired from orbit. Entire defense stations twisted apart instantly like paper crushed by invisible hands. Dominion ships exploded everywhere. Panic spread through the system. Human bombers moved through space with terrifying precision. Every military target vanished one after another. The battle lasted only 18 minutes. Then came the final strike. A massive human dreadnought moved above Carthos Prime slowly. Its main weapon activated. Blue light gathered across the front of the ship. Even nearby stars seemed dim beside it. A Dominion officer whispered in horror. "What is that thing?" The weapon fired. A giant beam of energy struck the planet below. The surface cracked apart instantly. Oceans disappeared. Cities burned. Mountains exploded. Within minutes, Carthos Prime became a dead world. Across the galaxy, people watched the battle recordings in horror. Humanity had destroyed one of the Dominion's strongest military planets with ease. And they showed no emotion while doing it. Inside the Imperial Palace, General Kaler stared at the reports silently. "This is impossible," a younger officer whispered. Kaler shook his head slowly. "No." He looked toward the Emperor. "We created this." The Emperor turned furiously. "You dare blame me?" Kaler did not move. "You publicly murdered 10 million humans," he answered calmly. "You turned revenge into their entire purpose." The Emperor said nothing. Because deep inside, even he understood the truth now. Humanity was not fighting for territory. They were fighting for extinction. Meanwhile, human fleets continued moving deeper into Dominion space. Every few hours another military station vanished. Another fleet disappeared. Another world burned. The strange thing was that humanity avoided civilian populations whenever possible. They targeted military factories, command centers, shipyards. They were destroying the Dominion piece by piece. Coldly. Carefully. Like surgeons cutting out disease. But fear still spread everywhere. Alien governments closed borders. Trade systems collapsed. Neutral worlds declared emergency lockdowns. Nobody knew how far humanity would go. Some species secretly prepared defenses against Earth itself. Others quietly supported the humans. Because many races had suffered under Dominion rule for centuries. Now the Empire finally looked weak. One evening, a hidden human strike team attacked a Dominion command ship near the border systems. The operation lasted only 7 minutes. When it ended, dozens of Vorlax soldiers were dead. But one important prisoner survived. Grand Commander Valak. One of the officers responsible for the live execution. The captured commander woke inside a human military cell. Metal walls surrounded him. Bright white lights filled the room. Then the door opened. Admiral Ward entered slowly. 2 human soldiers stood behind him silently. Valak tried to act fearless. "You humans cannot win," he growled. Ward pulled a chair forward calmly and sat across from him. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Finally, Ward placed a small device on the table. The recording of the moon execution began playing. Children crying. Families screaming. Fire covering the screen. Valak looked uncomfortable immediately. Ward watched him carefully. Then he asked one simple question. "Who gave the order?" Valak stayed silent. Ward nodded slowly. "That is fine." He stood from the chair and walked toward the exit. But before leaving, he stopped beside the door. And for the first time, emotion appeared in his voice. Cold hatred. "Because we are going to destroy every part of your empire until someone answers." The war changed the galaxy. Before the executions, humans were seen as emotional and reckless. Now they were something else entirely. Something colder. Something dangerous. Every day, new reports spread across galactic networks. Dominion fleets destroyed. Military worlds burning. Entire defense lines collapsing within hours. And behind every attack, the same message appeared. 10 million. Fear slowly replaced pride inside the Vorlax Dominion. Citizens who once celebrated humanity's suffering now hid inside underground shelters. Trade systems stopped working. Food shortages spread across major worlds. Even military commanders began losing hope. Because humanity never stopped. They attacked during the day. They attacked during the night. They attacked from empty space where no ships should exist. And the worst part? Human soldiers never celebrated victory. They moved from battle to battle like machines. Cold. Silent. Focused. Inside the Imperial Palace, the Emperor looked weaker every day. Dark circles formed under his eyes. He had stopped sleeping. Huge holographic screens surrounded the throne room, each showing another disaster. A fleet destroyed near the border. A weapons factory erased from orbit. Another military governor missing. The empire was collapsing. General Kaler stood quietly beside the throne. "The humans are moving toward the inner systems now," he reported calmly. The emperor gripped the arms of his throne tightly. "How many fleets remain?" Kaler hesitated. "Not enough." The emperor looked furious. "We still outnumber them." Kaler slowly shook his head. "This war is no longer about numbers." The emperor stared at him silently. Then Kaler said the words nobody inside the palace wanted to hear. "We created monsters." Far away, inside the human flagship Vengeance, Admiral Elias Ward stood alone in the ship's memorial chamber. The room was quiet. 10 million names covered the black metal walls from floor to ceiling. Children. Workers. Families. Soldiers. Every victim from the destroyed moon. Ward walked slowly past the endless names. Human officers often came here before battle. Some prayed. Some cried. Others stood silently for hours. A young soldier entered carefully behind the admiral. "Sir," she said softly, "Fleet Orion is ready for deployment." Ward nodded. But before leaving, he stopped near one small name on the wall. A little girl. 7 years old. The same child seen during the live execution. Ward stared at her name for several seconds. Then he finally spoke. "Do you know why humanity is winning this war?" The young soldier remained quiet. Ward answered his own question. "Because the Dominion thinks fear controls people." He looked toward the memorial wall again. "But humans fight hardest after loss." The soldier understood immediately. The war was no longer about revenge alone. It was personal now. For every human alive. Hours later, another emergency meeting began inside the Dominion Palace. Military leaders argued loudly around the command table. "We need peace negotiations. We should abandon the outer systems. We must protect the capital." The Emperor slammed his fist down violently. "Enough." The room became silent. An officer stepped forward nervously. "My Emperor, there is something else." The Emperor narrowed his eyes. "What?" The officer activated a hologram. A recording appeared above the table. At first, it showed another destroyed Dominion fleet drifting through space. Then the image zoomed closer. Every destroyed warship had strange damage patterns. Clean cuts. Perfect targeting. No wasted firepower. General Kaler studied the recording carefully. Then his face darkened. "These attacks are being controlled by artificial intelligence." The room exploded with panic immediately. That technology was banned. No species would risk using war AI. Machines could wipe out entire civilizations. The officer swallowed nervously. "Our scans confirm human combat systems are partially automated now." The Emperor looked stunned. "Humans broke the AI accords." Kaler answered quietly. "No." He looked toward the burning fleet hologram. "They decided survival mattered more." Across the galaxy, rumors spread rapidly. Human warships were fighting with impossible speed. Enemy movements were predicted before they happened. Entire fleets vanished within minutes. Some alien races believed humanity had awakened ancient machine weapons hidden for centuries. Others feared humans had become half-machine themselves. Nobody knew the truth. But everyone was afraid. Meanwhile, on the occupied Dominion world of Seraph 9, terrified citizens watched the sky fill with human ships. Millions prepared for orbital bombardment. Emergency alarms screamed through every city. People ran through crowded streets trying to escape. Then something unexpected happened. Human transmissions appeared across every public screen. A human officer spoke calmly. "Remain inside civilian shelters. Humanity does not war against children." The message shocked everyone. Minutes later, precise strikes destroyed military bases, shipyards, and government buildings across the planet. Civilian areas remained untouched. The people of Seraph 9 watched in disbelief. Humanity could have destroyed the world completely. But they chose not to. For the first time, some Dominion citizens began questioning everything they were told about humans. Inside hidden resistance groups across the Empire, whispers began spreading. Maybe the Dominion deserved this war. Maybe humanity was not the real monster. But for the Emperor, those thoughts no longer mattered. Because humanity was approaching the core systems now. And nothing could stop them. Late that night, General Kaler stood alone inside a dark observation chamber overlooking the stars. A young officer entered quietly. "General, do you think humanity will truly destroy us?" Kaler remained silent for a long moment. Then he answered softly. "No." The officer looked confused. Kaler stared into deep space. They will do something worse. Before the officer could ask what he meant, emergency alarms suddenly filled the palace again. A terrified voice shouted through the speakers. Human fleets detected near the Imperial core. Repeat, human fleets have entered the core systems. The officer's face turned pale. Kaler closed his eyes slowly. Because he already knew what was coming. Humanity had finally reached the heart of the Dominion. And the final war was about to begin. The core systems of the Vorlax Dominion had never known fear. For centuries, the heart of the Empire stood untouched behind massive fleets and powerful defenses. No enemy had ever reached the Imperial core. Until humanity arrived. Thousands of human warships emerged from hyperspace like shadows spreading across the stars. Black armored fleets filled the darkness around the Dominion capital world. Emergency alarms screamed across every military station. Citizens flooded the streets in panic. Transport ships collided while trying to escape orbit. Government officials ran through palace halls shouting desperate orders. The Empire was falling apart. Inside the Imperial Palace, the Emperor stared at the giant tactical screens in disbelief. Human fleets surrounded the system completely. There was no escape route left. How many ships? He demanded. A trembling officer answered quietly. Too many to count, my Emperor. The Emperor turned toward General Kaler. You promised our defenses would hold. Kaler looked exhausted. They were designed to stop enemies who feared death. The Emperor said nothing. Because humanity no longer looked afraid of anything. Far outside the capital world, Admiral Elias Ward stood on the command deck of the human flagship Vengeance. The enormous battle station glowed with blue energy as thousands of ships moved around it. Human officers waited silently for orders. No cheering. No excitement. Only focus. Ward looked at the Dominion capital floating in the distance. A world filled with giant cities and massive towers. The center of the empire that ordered the deaths of 10 million humans. A young officer approached him carefully. Sir, Dominion fleets are preparing defensive formations. Ward nodded once. Begin the final operation. Within seconds, human warships accelerated forward. The Battle of the Imperial Core began. The stars themselves disappeared behind endless weapons fire. Dominion defense cannons blasted through space. Thousands of missiles crossed the darkness like burning comets. But humanity kept advancing. Human destroyers moved directly into enemy fire without slowing down. Gravity cannons tore entire Vorlax fleets apart. Heavy bombers destroyed orbital stations one after another. The Dominion fought desperately. Every remaining fleet joined the battle. But they were exhausted. Outnumbered. Terrified. Human ships moved with terrifying coordination. Artificial intelligence systems predicted enemy attacks before they happened. Entire Dominion formations collapsed within minutes. The battle became a massacre. Inside the palace command center, officers screamed over each other. The Fourth Fleet is gone. Defense Ring 2 destroyed. Human ships are entering low orbit. The Emperor watched everything fall apart around him. For the first time in his life, he felt helpless. General Kaler stood silently beside him. Then he spoke quietly. It is over. The Emperor turned furiously. No. He pointed toward the battle screens. We still have the palace defenses. Kaler slowly shook his head. You still do not understand. The Emperor stared at him. Kaler's voice became cold. The humans stopped fighting for victory a long time ago. Now they are fighting for memory. Far above the planet, the human flagship Vengeance moved closer to the capital city. Huge shadows covered the surface below. Billions watched from emergency shelters in fear. Then suddenly, all weapons fire stopped. The battle became silent. Confused Dominion commanders checked their systems nervously. Human fleets had completely surrounded the planet. But they were no longer firing. Admiral Ward appeared on every public screen across the Empire. His face looked calm. Cold. Emotionless. Behind him stood the memorial wall of 10 million names. Ward spoke slowly. 3 weeks ago, the Vorlax Dominion executed 10 million human civilians. You broadcast their deaths across the galaxy. Today, the galaxy watches your answer. The Emperor shouted angrily from inside the palace. Destroy those transmissions. But it was too late. Every world was listening. Ward continued speaking. Humanity did not come for innocent lives. We came for the Empire responsible. Then the transmission ended. Seconds later, human strike forces attacked the surface. Orbital elevators collapsed. Military headquarters exploded. Government towers burned across the capital city. But civilian districts remained untouched. Human soldiers moved directly toward the Imperial Palace. Dominion guards fought desperately inside the massive halls. Plasma fire filled the corridors. Explosions shook the walls. But the human advance never stopped. Room by room. Floor by floor. The palace defenses collapsed. Finally, the great throne room doors exploded inward. Smoke filled the chamber. Human soldiers entered slowly with weapons raised. At their center stood Admiral Elias Ward. The Emperor backed away from his throne in fear. This war is madness, he shouted. You cannot destroy an entire empire. Ward walked forward silently. The Emperor pointed angrily. You humans are becoming monsters. Ward finally stopped before the throne. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Then Ward activated a small hologram projector. The live execution recording appeared again inside the throne room. The little girl. The crying families. The exploding moon. The Emperor's face slowly lost color. You made the galaxy watch. Now you will watch too. Outside the palace, massive explosions shook the capital. Human fleets destroyed the final military shipyards in orbit. The Dominion had officially lost the war. The Emperor collapsed onto his throne weakly. What happens now? He whispered. Ward answered without emotion. Your empire ends tonight. Hours later, the galaxy received the official human declaration. The Vorlax Dominion no longer existed. Its government was dissolved. Its fleets destroyed. Its military industries erased. The empire that once ruled half the galaxy was gone. But humanity did not exterminate the Vorlax species. Instead, they removed their power forever. No armies. No empire. No throne. Only survivors left behind to remember what happened. Across the galaxy, billions watched the aftermath in silence. No species celebrated. Because everyone understood the same terrifying truth now. Humanity was capable of mercy. But only after victory. And only after making sure their enemies would never rise again. Far above the ruined capital world, Admiral Ward stood alone aboard the Vengeance. A young officer approached carefully. Sir, the war is over. Ward stared into deep space silently. Then he answered softly. No. The officer looked confused. Before Ward could explain, every alarm inside the flagship suddenly activated. An unknown signal appeared from deep space beyond the galaxy. Ancient. Massive. And moving closer. The war was over. But the galaxy would never be the same again. For the first time in centuries, the Vorlax Dominion no longer existed. Its fleets were gone. Its armies destroyed. Its throne empty. The most powerful empire in known space had fallen in less than 1 month. And humanity had done it alone. Across thousands of worlds, people watched the aftermath with fear and disbelief. News stations repeated the same question again and again. What happens now? No one knew the answer. Because nobody truly understood humanity anymore. Before the war, humans were seen as emotional and divided. Now the galaxy saw something very different. A species capable of patience. A species capable of terrible focus. And worst of all, a species capable of endless revenge. Trade routes slowly reopened across the core systems. Destroyed stations drifted silently through space. Burned warships floated near dead planets. Entire military sectors remained dark and empty. Everywhere, the scars of war remained. But human fleets still moved across the galaxy. Watching. Waiting. Making sure no remnant of the Dominion could rise again. Far above Earth, thousands of ships gathered around a giant memorial station built near the moon. It was called the Silent Light. 10 million white lights covered its outer walls. One light for every human life lost during the execution. Every year, all human systems stopped for 1 full hour. No ships moved. No factories worked. No communication signals were sent. Humanity became completely silent. The tradition terrified alien races. Because during that hour, the entire galaxy remembered what happened after the last silence. Inside the memorial station, Admiral Elias Ward walked slowly through a long hallway lined with names. The war had aged him heavily. Gray hair now covered parts of his head. Dark shadows rested under his eyes. But he still walked with calm strength. A young officer joined him quietly. "Sir," she said softly, "delegations from the core worlds are waiting." Ward nodded. Alien governments had been requesting meetings with Earth for weeks. Some wanted alliances. Some wanted protection. Most simply wanted reassurance that humanity would not turn its anger toward the rest of the galaxy. Inside the main council chamber, leaders from many species sat nervously around a giant table. No one spoke when Ward entered. The silence itself showed how much the galaxy had changed. Before the war, humans were often ignored during galactic meetings. Now every species watched them carefully. A senator from the Valoran Republic finally spoke. "The galaxy fears another war." Ward answered calmly. "So does humanity." Another alien leader leaned forward carefully. "What will Earth do now?" Ward looked around the room silently. Then he answered with simple honesty. "Humanity will remember." Nobody knew how to respond to that. Because everyone understood what it truly meant. Humanity had not forgotten the 10 million dead. And they never would. Meanwhile, on former Dominion worlds, surviving Vorlax citizens struggled to rebuild their lives. Many expected humanity to continue the slaughter after victory. But the humans never attacked civilian populations. Instead, they delivered food shipments. Medical aid. Power generators. The survivors did not understand. One elderly Vorlax woman asked a human soldier. "Why help us after everything?" The soldier looked toward the ruined skyline quietly. "Because if we become like your empire." He paused. Then the 10 million died for nothing. Slowly, stories like that spread across the galaxy. Humanity was feared. But now, strangely, they were also respected. Even species that once mocked humans began teaching about Earth's history inside military academies. One lesson became famous across the stars. Never mistake human kindness for weakness. Far away, Deep inside Earth's military headquarters, a secret meeting was taking place. Only the highest-ranking officers attended. Massive holographic screens showed strange signals coming from beyond known space. Ancient symbols flashed across the displays repeatedly. A nervous scientist adjusted the data carefully. "We finally translated part of the transmission," she explained. Ward stood near the center table. "What does it say?" The scientist hesitated. Then she answered quietly. "Predator species detected. Containment failure confirmed." The room became silent. Another officer frowned. "Containment? What does that mean?" Before anyone could answer, new images appeared on the screens. Huge dark objects moved slowly through deep space. Ships. But unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Each vessel was larger than entire cities. Ancient. Silent. Massive beyond imagination. The scientist's hands trembled. These ships have been dormant for thousands of years. Ward narrowed his eyes. Why activate now? Nobody answered immediately. Then another scientist spoke carefully. "We believe, they were watching the galaxy." The room grew colder. "They saw the war," she continued. "They saw what humanity became." One officer whispered nervously. "And now?" The scientist looked toward the giant alien ships moving slowly across the stars. "Now they are coming." Far across the galaxy, hidden machines awakened in darkness. Ancient weapons powered on for the first time in ages. Unknown civilizations began sending emergency signals. Fear spread once again. But this time, the fear was not about humanity. It was about what humanity had awakened. Back aboard the memorial station, Admiral Ward stood alone beside the wall of 10 million lights. The stars outside glowed softly in the darkness. For several minutes, he said nothing. Then a small alert appeared on his wrist communicator. The unknown ships were getting closer. Ward closed his eyes briefly. The war against the Dominion had ended. But another war was already beginning. And somewhere in deep space, something ancient had made one terrible mistake. It believed humanity had reached its limit. Ward looked toward the stars and spoke quietly to himself. "You should have stayed asleep." Far beyond the edge of known space, the giant alien fleet continued moving toward the galaxy. And on Earth, humanity began preparing for war again.